Welcome to the Drupal usability meeting on January 30, 2026. The attendees are Simo Halston, Pallavi Singh, Gareth, and myself, Ralph. And we are looking at issue number 2982853. When editing a node with a menu, the menu setting is opened by default. I can quickly also share my screen, which I forgot, and then it's easier. I've quickly looked at the issue right before the meeting, and it doesn't have a merge request yet, but just to quickly summarize what it is basically about. If you are creating a new node, and that in this case an article, in the advanced sidebar you have the URL alias, which currently is collapsed, and let's say two or one create article, and we want to reach it just great, and save. And the air quotes problem, or the objective of the issue, is basically if you now edit, you'll see the URL alias in contrast to all the other detail elements is kept expanded. And the suggestion is basically don't default open. If it has a value, we have the detailed summary for that. And as you can see, yeah, you already see basically in the summary, the alias is /grade. That is basically the suggestion of the issue. Any questions?
None from me. And note that that's default behavior for all those. So, for example, if you put a menu setting in, that defaults to open as well.
Yeah. It's open. But the question, but yeah. If 1 second, if it's open. Yeah, as
So
soon as
it's not the default
yeah,
behavior, you get that opened.
it's not possible to be added. Okay. Same in here. No? Okay, that's interesting.
Well, I suppose in terms of UX, it makes sense to have it all as a unified response. So if none of it opens by default, that's an improvement.
I would say it depends on the type of attribute you're editing or you're dealing with, because if you have something that has to be changed regularly, then it probably makes sense to omit the additional click for expanding. But for something like, let's say, a URL alias, you try to keep consistent over time and you don't want to change it repeatedly. I don't consider it necessary, and yeah, I'm not sure. Do menu settings change often?
Wouldn't have thought so. I thought it would probably have come as a part of a content restructuring.
Yeah.
I think for a new node, if it's a specific content type, for a new node, it could be useful to have that open so that the author can easily see that this one is intended, this type of content is intended to be attached to a menu. So it could make sense to have it open per content type setting for new nodes. But when it's already in the in a menu, then usually it's not changed. So in a way, it's not changed as often as it's edited. That's kind of so for a new it sometimes for a new node it makes sense to have it opened by default, but not while editing. Whereas and
If you can you
oh
Ralph,
yeah,
sorry, go on.
yeah, it has that provide a menu link. So if that would be checked by default for a content type, then it would be open. But
Yeah, but as
So
you've seen,
if you
I
if you go
just
to could you go to structure
Mhm.
and go to content types, and then instead of manage fields, could you edit the article and scroll down in the menu settings at the bottom here? I wonder, the article's set to have the main navigation. I've seen this where the default for articles is to have no menu available. But yeah, I would have thought
uh,
maybe it's bait, is it? Hmm.
write a menu link. Oops, no, that's the wrong one. That was the one. One second, just testing. Yeah, it's correct behavior. But one second, sorry. I get back to there. But your thought was basically that there shouldn't be any menu selected?
Well, uh, how when did you install this redev? I thought articles came with nothing ticked in the available menu, but I might be wrong. What happens if you untick main navigation? There's
Oh,
just
it's
no
gone.
menu at all.
Yeah, but it makes sense. Oops, that was wrong.
That's okay. You can edit it.
Hmm. I kind of agree with Simo's point for creating a new node might be beneficial to have the options available.
But then again, if someone has on a bigger site, if someone has access to edit the main menu, they would have usually more experience already. And then also, if there is a beginner Drupal content editor, then maybe this could be gone through. It could be explained in some kind of tutorial that kind of add to menu like this. So in a way, for most cases, it makes sense to not show them. And having it configurable would be a contrib module task, maybe.
Make what configurable?
Whether or not to show something by default. So that there could be a contrib module that kind of allows you like more fine-grained setup on what to show and what not. So for instance, for some content types, having a scheduler tab open by default might make sense, but it's not something that should be defined in the core.
Yeah, agreed. But for this issue, the questions, or for us, the question is simply now, how should core behave out of the box? In general, what would be useful? I have the feeling personally that make it just about the URL alias is a too tight scope. And as I guess it was Gareth pointed out, in any case, if any of those default values changes, the detail is also expanded. So it's not only about the URL alias.
If you look at the example in the actual ticket, though, I think it's the menu link that's mentioned in there, or the menu is certainly in the video that's been linked.
The diff isn't
Yeah.
working for me.
Is that the same? Mine autoplays.
But maybe I've deactivated the animations. That could be.
Oh, you got animation set to false or a low movement.
Just not sure where the setting is.
Do you want me to share quickly while
Yeah, one sec.
just for the
I'll
video?
stop. Yep.
Um, oh, I'm not sure my settings are correct. I'll have it.
So far, no video yet.
Yeah, let's
Yeah, no.
so you see here. It's showing the menu settings as open. Then afterwards, edit, menus closed, click to open menu.
Okay. To me, it sounded like it's only about the menu, but it's about all the available details. Okay.
Yeah, well, I think that the ticket is about menu, but as we've discovered, it's URL alias as well.
Yeah.
Although interestingly, the problem doesn't extend to the promote options.
Yeah. The promote options behave slightly different. And another detail I've also noticed is, are you able to see my screen again?
Yes, we can.
Um, the other detail is the comment settings are basically missing
Oh,
the detail.
does that, if you save that, does that,
I don't, one sec. No,
no. So it's, yeah, the detailed summary for the comment setting is missing.
yeah, summary is definitely missing there. And from my perspective, necessary. Um,
Wonder if that's a follow-up ticket.
yeah, it's out of the scope for this one, but definitely needs a ticket.
Mhm. It would be my opinion that I'm not overly fussed whether these are opened or closed. I think it should be a unified behavior.
Yeah,
So all five should respond the same way if they're all opened on a new node and then closed when on an editing node. I'm okay with that. Um, if they want to be all closed for both new nodes and closed and editing nodes, again, I have no strong preference. But I do think the ones that accept a change, if they were going to be opened, then at least four of them should be open. I could potentially see the authoring information staying closed because it's not an accepted changed value. Um,
I
Potentially the URL alias is something that's maybe pushed forward to something like path alias or path auto, is that maybe the alias URL alias one stays closed if it's checked as automatic.
but
But
authoring
that's
information is here also able to change. As you can see, I just changed it from rcaller to admin.
so if you edit that, does that stay open now?
Yep, I
Yeah.
just went in. As you can see, edit. Oh no, closed.
Hmm. I'm not sure how you would mark that as changed from the default though, which is what's obviously happening with menu and comment.
You would have to check against basically the first revision.
Yeah. But,
If revisions are installed.
mm, um, But I guess the complexity of the amount of work that needs to be done to kind of keep that open or keep it closed probably adds weight to the argument that maybe all of them should just be closed by default.
Yeah.
I agree. I think having them closed is something that it would make it kind of simpler in a way.
Yeah. The only thing that would be required if everything is closed at all, the detail elements have a summary.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise it just adds complexity to bring in some logic that some people might like, others won't. So, and all of those settings, the odds are not that high that you change them regularly. So one additional click for an existing node isn't such a big deal from my perspective.
Yeah. Something out of scope, but does that URL alias, does it tell you that whether or not it's set to be automatic? If you create a new node, would it say that it will be automatic?
I think Path Auto, or what's the module? I think that's it's a contrib module that does that.
Yeah, that's contrib.
Yeah, okay.
Which would be an interesting thought. What does that?
Shall I quickly install Path Auto?
I was just looking to see if I had anything locally that.
Oh, I can't install because it only works with Drupal 11 and the main branch changed to Drupal 12 a few weeks ago, one or two.
Yeah. Actually, I had one work site I could check. It does say that, well, this site says automaattinen alias, which means automatic alias in Finnish. So yeah, it does change that, so it's nice.
So
So
the
then you
summary
can
does update. Great.
yeah.
Cool.
So we decided on closed for editing, and then do we want to keep URL alias open if it's not? Well, I suppose for core it needs to be open because you would normally expect that to be filled in on a new node, and maybe menu settings to be open on a new node.
1 second. Just first, just making notes. So the consensus is on editing an existing node, all detail elements closed.
Yep.
And all details need a summary.
Yeah. So we need to create a follow-up ticket for the comment settings, which
Follow
don't
up
have them.
comment settings. Because basically none of those settings is edited regularly. So an additional click isn't that bad. Okay. And the question about a new article?
I think I'm inclined to just keep it closed.
Yeah.
Also.
At least there's consistent behavior. The expectation is that they're closed. It's not too difficult to open the panel.
Yeah. For some content types, having menu settings might make sense. For some content type, URL alias might make sense to have it open, but to keep it consistent, I think the default should be to have them all closed and then use some other non-core code to manage exceptions.
Simo, just one question. When you've looked to your test site that is using Path Auto, have you looked on a new node, or was it on an existing node that it said automatically be generated?
On a new node.
On a new, okay. So
Yeah.
instead of no alias, it says auto created.
Yes.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay. Yeah, I think I also agree keeping it collapsed on the new node would be acceptable. Because having everything expanded takes a lot of space. It doesn't make things easier to read and to process necessarily. Okay. Do we have anything to add aside that?
Nothing else.
Okay, 1 second. New nodes, keep them collapsed. And Path Auto notifies that URL alias is getting auto-created. Okay, then I guess that's it for this issue. Oops. Where's the other issue? Yeah, that one I would suggest to discuss next week when Benji returns. We could either end earlier today, since we don't have a full issue to go through, or we could take a first look. That's just an idea that one issue that I ran into again, I've commented on 2 years ago, and it still needs, in the context of accessibility, some discussion or feedback, but also in regards of usability. Maybe we could take a look at that one. And we could do a brief introduction. I could do a brief introduction about the problem. or we could end early today. So up to you.
I don't mind taking a quick look, but I do have to be sharp today. So.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, let's take a brief look at issue number 3207233, improves the visual indication of the active workspace in the workspace's listing UI. It's basically about two places. At first, we have up here, if the workspaces is installed, you have now in the navigation that live menu item. Clicking that gets you basically to that pop-up, or not sure how to call it. Let's go over there. And there again, it's the problem. You have the live section, the live workspace, and I've created the staging. And if you, for example, switch to staging, confirm, then you see it changes up here and it changes down there as well. And it's simply the change is only based on color. In here you see, okay, the active one is basically with a gray background. In the oral interface, there's no indication for the active workspace. And same here, and same as on the page title. So it's pretty difficult. And on a different note, also the problem from my perspective, that color and background you have for basically the current workspace has quite the visual weight and is like a magnet and drawing the attention to that basically state up there. And also semantically, I'm not sure if having the staging up there in the context of the menu is the right place. It feels more either in the header region or in the footer region, not in the content region. So yeah,
And what's the default behavior if you're well, I've got so many questions.
yeah.
Staging, why is that a link? And then live is not a link?
Live is basically the default
Normal
stage.
default behavior. Okay.
It's also
And
the
what
question of the labeling. Live is a pretty technical term, and staging that's the term staging was chosen by myself,
okay.
to
So
be
what
fair.
does the link do on the word staging? Oh, it
You go
just
in
takes
here and
you
you see that basically the changes that were applied to the staging workspace.
okay.
And then you can publish those changes to the live.
Okay. Hmm.
As you can see here, you can manage and you can edit the workspace, you can delete it, or you can view it.
So staging has okay, that's yes, I understand that now. Staging in the top left corner, the
Up here,
colored. What what does it look like if it's live? Is it just
it's
it's green?
green. It's basically um, uh, it's WCAG one. What is it? Yeah, 141. The use of color, basically.
it's not just that, because it does say live and staging, and I guess if you have workspaces switched on, if you start to get to recognize the pattern that the top left corner tells you which workspace you're in, does the color just act as a highlight to kind of give you a bit of a heads up, but you can still determine that you're live or staging because it says live and staging. Hmm.
1 second. Let's add another.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would say, not sure about the purpose of the color still. But yeah, I
No.
agree. It's not, the state is not all solely communicated via color in that case. So I agree, but down here, that is definitely 1 for 1.
Hmm.
Because in here you have no sign what is the active workspace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but still up here, I have a problem with those colors because they are so strong and draw the attention away. While
And
at the same, oh, go
I
ahead.
wonder if that's deliberate, because quite often I've seen other places use a similar design pattern to alert that, just to make you aware that you're not working in a particular environment. For example, environment indicator. When you're working, if you do have a staging or a development site, environment indicator is often used as an alert. So a bolder color to kind of say you're working in a live site here. It's a bit of a warning. In which case the colors do matter. But I wonder if it's enough of a difference between the green and the yellow just to kind of say, if you're editing content here, you're editing it in a live site, whereas you might expect to be in a staging workspace.
Hmm. Still, it's odd.
Uh, Alavi has said to show the active workspace, we can add a green circle with the title name.
You mean in here?
Yes, didn't mean in the workspace area.
In the table, basically. Okay.
The other alternative is to say, to have a dash with active beside the workspace that is actually active currently.
Yeah. Or it's basically just some kind of chip or no, not a chip.
A pill seems to be the thing people are doing now. Yeah.
Yeah, but still, just for readability, having an actual, because we are in a table, and therefore, from my perspective, having a dedicated column for what is basically live and what
Mhm.
is not.
Yep, potentially. Again, another comment saying basically we can improve the typography, maybe with the font weight, or yeah, adding a tag.
Oh, and Pallavi wrote in the chat to show the active workspace, we can add a green circle.
That's
That was
yeah,
with you. Okay. Okay.
that's what I read out. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Green circle.
So
Yeah.
what is the issue question that we're addressing?
Um,
Just to keep it in scope.
yeah, the issue is basically improve the visual indication of the active workspace in the workspace's listing UI.
So it's just in that table.
In the table, but from my
But yeah,
perspective, um, just from the perspective of a screen reader, um, is comment number 17. I would simply add the active workspace to the page title,
hmm
because that is basically one elemental information necessary, fundamental information necessary for a screen reader user to comprehend the context, the page they are currently in.
yeah.
So the suggestion basically for example, content types, then stage workspace, and then um, the page, the site title.
Yeah.
So you have front loaded the most specific information, and then you get broader step by step.
I take it that's only if the current workspace is not the live workspace.
But
Because
then you,
I guess the live workspace would just have the site, the H1 site name as it is currently.
mm, from my perspective, I think as soon as you enable workspaces, I think it's mandatory to have, even if it's the live workspace, or at least in the context of the admin UI,
Oh yeah, maybe in the
um,
admin UI. Hmm
to have also the live workspace, because it's important context. Otherwise, it's just implied. Then you have to know, if I don't get basically announcement about a workspace, then I'm in the live workspace, and that is error prone.
Okay. Yep. I suppose anything in the admin UI could affect, could if you think you're in live and you're actually in stage, then you know, might be confused as to why your edits aren't showing up on that
Yeah,
across the board. Yeah.
exactly.
Or likewise, if you're not aware that you're in the live workspace, then you might be pushing temporary edits live
Yep.
without realizing it.
You go YOLO, and then you realize, oh,
Yeah, I've just deleted 17 groups and now no users can access the website. Ah.
exactly. So that's why
Mhm.
I think the scope needs a bit broader and not solely about that table.
Yeah. And I noticed also when you look at the ticket that the screenshots probably need to be updated because they're from the navigation menu has been inserted now and we don't have that black bar at the top anymore with the live in green.
It's all still 7 as the admin's theme. So that's also dated.
Yep.
Yeah. But I think we should revisit this issue, um, and just see this as a brief introduction. And each of you can basically just test on your own a bit, and then we can revisit it and
Yep.
discuss it also with Benji. And because
Yeah.
also
Oh,
this UI
okay.
up there is quite odd.
Yeah, that's not great, is it? So
Yeah.
is that because you have more than one extra workspace that it started scrolling. It didn't scroll originally, did it? Or is it because we have?
I'm not sure. Let's quickly switch to live and delete one again. I'm not sure.
Oh
Okay,
no, it did
here.
scroll.
Yeah. Oh, basically the header was hidden because it was scrolled down.
Ah,
Okay. If I scroll over here, it doesn't make a difference. It's always showing, but sometimes it was scrolled, sometimes it was not scrolled.
Maybe it's depending on the toolbar CSS. So it was reusing CSS from some other toolbar module, which
Yeah,
is not here anymore. So it could be a bit of a wrong kind of shortcuts.
yeah.
hmm. Yep.
But as far as I know, the basic idea of that interface up here was that it should be span across the entire space, entire viewport, and so that it basically entails everything underneath, so it is clear to the user. Oh, this is also interesting. Okay. Because it was the idea that basically it is communicated through the UI that everything is encapsulated in that workspace underneath that, let's call it widget or pop-up or however you want to call it.
Here's another question. Just that X that was on the far hand right hand side, does that close the title or the whole block? Or the whole block. Okay.
Whole block.
Yeah, with the hard line between there, I thought perhaps that just closed the dark space
Ah,
in a similar way that you can, oh, well, let's just close the title. And it closes the whole thing. And I take it you can't expand that any.
no, not possible.
It's unfortunate. Well,
What would be the
okay.
benefit for expanding it?
So that you could see everything in the one space.
Okay, yeah, fair point. Yeah, that scrolling is also, yeah. That definitely needs some more discussion.
Yep.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if it's worth to make a comment on that issue because we haven't come to any conclusions yet. Oops, what is zooming? Yeah, it's powerful, but the UI is problematic. Okay. Or whoops, sorry, I already stopped it. Has anyone some closing thoughts on those workspaces? Otherwise, we could simply end 5 minutes earlier.
I'm just wondering if it makes sense to ask for new screenshot, or do we think it's enough? No. So we could just ask for new screenshots already to the issue.
I think it's worth getting them, but I don't know that it would stop us doing a review necessarily. But if we're going to discuss it further with Benji, then I wouldn't hold up needing the review, but certainly I think it's worth noting that it is needed.
Yeah. We could note that those are dated, but it wouldn't provide any benefit at this point because it has to be discussed anyway, and we're looking then at the site, so at the recent site, so it wouldn't help us really, I guess.
Interestingly, though, that the images didn't show what it was like on a different colored workspace. I wonder if the yellow and the green are still hangovers from the existing UI, Drupal 7 or whatever it was when it was.
1 second. Switch to live. No, different color.
So it has been updated since, but they obviously decided that it was going to stay as a green.
Oh, 1 second. Because somehow because on the left is basically the color from the issue, and on the right is the color picked from here. But basically the color picked from the issue is looking pretty close.
With images, it could be also color conversion if somebody has spins it through some editing software that kind of applies a color
Yeah.
color mode, and then it kind of gets strict or something like that. So colors can change a bit.
Yeah. Agreed. But one thought is basically also if you just as a visual cue, you could basically, again, it would be just color, but why not use the color use up here, the same color down here? So you basically make the connection that this screen is the same as down here. And if you switch, the orange is then orange here. That could be also, but then again, it's just the connection made by color. But if you do something in the Aura interface as well, then and additional other cues, then it might be viable.
Yep. I think my preference would be if you have more than two, though there'd be different colors at least for each. So it gives you a clue as to which environment you're in. Because I guess the difference between live and any other is important, but if it is important that you have live, stage, and development, for example, or assuming that's or workspace 1, workspace 2, the difference between those might be good to highlight.
And then you also have to mind that there's also the option to have parent-child relationships. So you could have basically a child of staging or several childs of staging, and you could get in a hierarchy.
Oh wow, yeah. Do the children then adopt the parents' color, or do That might be just overcomplicating things.
Stage child. Oh, okay.
What's the plus? That
Yeah,
doesn't look like that.
that is unexpected. I thought it would be indented, or at least it was
A
a
small
few months
arrow.
ago. But a plus is quite unexpected. I have questions.
I wonder if not only do we need meta issues, but maybe we need can of worm issues.
Also,
Does that
why?
is there movement on that plus as well if you hover over the plus? No.
No. Ah, okay. You merge into staging and then you switch to stage. Switch. Huh, okay. Huh. Oh, we are 3 minutes over the hour.
Yeah. All right. I better jump. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
And we'll see next week, hopefully then. Okay, doke. Have a nice weekend,
Thanks.
everyone.
You too.
Yes,
Have a
have a
good
nice
one.
weekend.
Bye.
Yep. Bye.
Bye bye.